What's up, everyone? I'm Joe Pomp, and this is the Joe Pomp Show. Today, I want to talk about Luton Town Football Club. Now, I think this is probably going to be one of the best stories in sports this year. Luton Town is a 138-year-old football club located 30 miles northwest of London, and it was purchased for just $7 in 2003. But the owners only lasted 55 days, pushing the club near bankruptcy multiple times and nosediving them into the 5th division of English football. And the club's infrastructure has become sort of a joke online. Their initial ground was actually next to a railway line, and it had to be moved after players and fans continuously complained about the smoke from the train covering the ball. And their current stadium, it's not that much better either. It was built in 1905 and is over 120 years old. It also sits just 10,356 fans. And many fans have to walk through houses just to enter the stadium to play. And for context of just how small that actually is, there's 75 high school football fields in Texas that have more seating capacity than Luton Town's current stadium. But none of this really matters because Luton Town is officially headed to the Premier League. They beat Coventry City at Wembley Stadium on Saturday in penalty kicks, securing their promotion to the Premier League next season and the $200 million financial windfall that comes with it. That's why it's called the richest game in football. So Luton Town's annual revenue will now increase from about $20 million today to nearly $200 million next year. And that means Luton Town has now gone from the 5th division of English football to the 1st in just 9 years, becoming the first team in history to go from the amateur league to the Premier League in less than a decade. Now, of course, Luton Town's story is not the norm. Many clubs in the championship are spending more money than they make, sinking themselves into $1 million of debt on the off chance that they can potentially outspend their opponents to get promoted. But Luton Town didn't follow that blueprint. They don't have a celebrity billionaire owner, and they're not backed by an oil-rich Gulf state. They spent roughly $10 million on their wage bill this year alone, which was only good enough for 21st out of 24 teams in the championship, and it was roughly 1/3 of what competitors like Watford and Burnley were spending at the top. So while everyone else zigged, Luton Town zagged, and it paid off tremendously. Luton Town will now make at least $200 million in additional revenue from the Premier League over the next 3 years, even if they get relegated next season. This is because the Premier League has significantly bigger media rights contracts than the Championship. For example, the Premier League brings in about $3.1 billion a year in media rights, while the Championship brings in only $350 million. And when you look at it on a per-team basis, the difference is even more startling. Norwich City, for instance, received nearly $125 million in TV revenue last year for finishing last in the Premier League, compared to Fulham, who received just $10 million in TV money for winning the Championship. And even if Luton Town gets relegated after this season, they're still going to get $70 million to $80 million in parachute payments. These are payments sent from the Premier League to teams that have been relegated back to the Championship for up to 3 years, and they're meant to soften the financial blow when you go from league to league. Now, if you zoom out and we look at Luton Town's financial impact over the next couple of years, the increase in revenue is mainly made up of two things. First off, you have $120 million in additional TV money next year, and then $70 to $80 million in parachute payments if they get relegated in year 1. But if Luton Town can avoid relegation and stay in the Premier League for 2, 3, or even 4 years, they're going to be looking at a financial windfall in excess of $400, $500, or even $600 million. And if you think that's cool, check this out. This is Peli Rudak-Mpanzu. He's a former West Ham Academy graduate that joined Luton Town on loan in 2013. And he was shocked when he arrived at Luton Town and discovered that the team was training on a field that was publicly used by other residents to walk their dogs. But still, he stayed with the club, and he's now the only player in history to take a team from non-league to the Premier League while staying with that one club the entire time. Now look, not everything is picture perfect at Luton Town. They're going to have to spend at least $10 million on upgrades to get the stadium up to Premier League standards. This includes things like replacing seats, widening the broadcast area, installing floodlights, and more. And their expenses are obviously going to increase alongside revenue too, with higher player salaries, travel expenses, and more. But the bottom line is clear. Luton Town's promotion from the 5th division of English football to the 1st in just 9 years is precisely what makes the English football pyramid so great. The English football pyramid doesn't care who you are, where you come from, or even how much money you have. Anyone can win and get promoted. And when you win, you get rewarded personally, professionally, emotionally, and financially.